Antagonist. What is an antagonist? A character, force, or entity that opposes the protagonist. Classic examples of mean and cruel antagonists include Captain Hook from Peter Pan, Darth Vader from the original Star Wars trilogy, and Iago from Othello, not to be confused with Iago from Aladdin, who worked for another diabolical antagonist named Jafar. Because of their evil natures, we could call each of these antagonists a villain. But some antagonists aren't evil. They simply have a different moral compass than the protagonist does. Think of Inspector Javert from Les Miserables, the Unstoppable Posse from Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, or Carl Hanratty from Catch Me If You Can. Each antagonist has the law on his side, yet most of us will still root for the law-breaking protagonist. Antagonists can be anything that prevents the main characters from following their heart's desire. Sometimes antagonists are well-meaning parents, like the mother and father from Romeo and Juliet, or Mr. Banks from Mary Poppins, or the dance-obsessed, emotionally erratic mother from Strictly Ballroom. Sometimes the antagonists seem to love the protagonists, like Moriarty in Sherlock, or the creepy Goblin King from Labyrinth, or Heath Ledger's Joker from The Dark Knight. Although I suppose it depends on how you define love. And sometimes an antagonist isn't a character, it's a force of nature, like a tornado in Kansas, or the freezing cold of the Yukon, or the great white shark off the coast of Amity Island. Or an antagonist could be a supernatural entity, such as the god of Neptune from the Odyssey, the mystical power that traps Bill Murray's character in the seemingly endless cycle of Groundhog Days, or the curse of the monkey's paw. In some books and movies, sometimes the antagonist is an entire society, like the judgmental Puritans in The Scarlet Letter, or the closed-minded bigots in To Kill a Mockingbird. This doesn't just apply to historical and contemporary fictions. Sometimes the society in question is a futuristic dystopia. Think, for example, of The Hunger Games, or The Handmaid's Tale, or 1984 by George Orwell. Each novel features a protagonist who struggles against a totalitarian government. This might sound a bit like doublespeak, but a protagonist can also be an antagonist. If there is an internal conflict or an inner conflict, then the antagonist might stem from within the protagonist. Hamlet is riddled with indecision and self-doubt, Ichabod Crane fosters superstition and cowardice, and Anakin Skywalker has that weird thing about sand. Here's one way of looking at a story. The protagonist wants to achieve a goal. The antagonist can be anything or anyone that gets in the way of the protagonist, even the protagonist's own internal conflict. Do you have a favorite antagonist, whether it's a villain or something else? Leave a comment, and if you would like to see more of these Elements of Fiction videos, be sure to like and subscribe.